Welcome back to Retirement News Online. A charitable lead trust can be a powerful way to make a lasting impact for a cause you care about while also reducing estate taxes and preserving wealth for your heirs. Now, it's worth exploring how this trust strategy might fit into your broader estate plan, which is why we have Kevin Sullivan and Robin Whitlock from Infinite Wealth Advisors. You guys are in North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio. How do you even have time to even talk to me with all this going on? And then also,
you know, Scott, I don't know. Why are we here today?
We're about to find out. They also host a popular radio show, Wealth Over Taxes. You spend a lot of time talking about taxes because that's a big part of what you do, trying to minimize that. This is an area where a lot of advisors probably don't spend enough time, but let's talk about the Charitable Lead Trust. Who benefits first there?
Well, your charities benefit first. So a charitable lead trust is a very flexible way to make a contribution to a charitable organization for a predefined period of time while not losing control of the underlying asset. So as an example, you contribute $1 million to a charitable lead trust, and that lead trust, those dollars are invested in the lead trust, and you make contributions coming out of the lead trust to your charitable organizations, and maybe that lasts for a 10-year period, and then at the end of the 10 years you can then come back in and take back control over the original contribution. So it's a way to kind of get both sides. Lots of income tax deductions, again, that go along with that, and Robin can talk about that. That's kind of our expertise.
Yes, tax maven, go ahead.
That's right, that's right. Well, and to Kevin's point about the, he made the comment about the asset can go back to the grantor. That's a reversionary trust, which means that you have the ability while you're doing your estate planning to determine at the end of that trust term whether those assets go back to the original grantor. You can push that to the beneficiaries. At that point in time, they get a step up in basis, which is really important for a lot of folks, especially if you have a large estate. To the tax point, CLTs, Charitable Lead Trust, are really good during low interest rate environment. So, but yes, making that contribution, you get a tax deduction immediately depending on the assets that you contribute. We calculate that for you. We work with our trust sponsors to be able to get those dollars and cents accurate before we make any transactions, because it's really important to do that tax planning prior to making that contribution to make sure it's going to benefit you.
Oh, yes it is. Yes it is. So we're talking about a lot of charitable trusts here. How does it compare to a donor advised trust or a remainder trust?
So a couple of things. A lot of times what you can do is you can take a charitable lead trust and a donor advised fund and actually leverage both of those.
Yes.
So you have your donor advised fund, which we talked about earlier, lead trust, which you're getting an income tax deduction for a restricted period of time, making contributions to your charity. Well, your charity can also be your donor advised fund. So you can take the funds that are in the lead trust, push that down into your donor advised fund, and then use your donor advised fund to make distributions out to your charities without having limitations and or requirements for making those contributions every year to your charitable organizations.
Right.
Are there assets that are best suited for a CLT?
It depends on the asset classes. Now, I know in this example we've used some highly appreciated assets, stocks. If you are an executive with a firm and you've got a lot of qualified dollars and you want to get those transferred over because you know at some point in the future you're going to have to take those qualified dollars out and start taking those required minimums, sometimes those are a good fit. Other things, other non-qualified accounts where you have a low cost basis. So really just depends on what assets the client has, what type of interest rate environment in. For this particular example, we had a client that we used multiple tax strategies using the CLT, the donor advised fund, and another type of trust, and brought his plan together because he had a lot of moving parts. So again, he got a lot of tax deductions, which we can break that down for you. But I guess the key takeaway here is if you've got large asset classes, large dollars, we need to take a look at those and see how we can help you make those philanthropic contributions and lessen the tax impact.
Yeah, because I guess the idea is to balance the charitable goals with, passing, the estate on to the family, and this, it seems like a great idea. But like, who's an ideal type of client for this? What kind of assets are we looking at, and who would be a good fit for
So
this?
maybe an executive that that part of his or her compensation plan is, maybe their bonus structure is around getting stock options in the company.
Yes.
So you work for, I don't know, Procter and Gamble, and you get, you have your base compensation, but every year your performance bonus is based on a percentage of whatever your salary is at a multiple. But instead of them paying you W-2 wages, what they do is they're giving you stock. Okay. That stock has basis. For most seasoned executives, they accumulate that stock over time. Normally, what we find is with a very low cost basis. And one of the things that highly appreciated stock, and the owners of that don't like to do, is to pay taxes when they go ahead and cash that out. But again, if you're philanthropic, what you can do is you can take that stock, you can leverage both the donor advised fund, the Charitable Lead Trust, and even a Charitable Remainder Trust, and maybe some combination of the three to fulfill those long-term philanthropic tendencies.
Yes.
So finally, so let's say we have an executive, they have stock options on the table, right? But they haven't been received yet. Can they also be added to a charitable trust like this?
You want to be careful about that, because a lot of RSUs, what happens is there's normally some vesting period. So, and what we typically see is it's usually 3 years. So you would get, if you've got options today, you can start to exercise those 3 years from now. Well, if you separate from service, you would get 100% of what you had, 3 years from now, you get 100% of what you have today in 3 years. You'd get 2/3 of the remaining options for the second year you were there, and you would only get 1/3 of the remaining options because it's a 3-year vesting period. So you want to be careful about exposing and making a commitment to make a contribution when you don't actually have control of the shares. The way around that is, and again, if you have a good planner, what you want to do is you want to phase that in. So you can make multiple contributions to the charitable organization, either your CLT or your DAF or your CRT, and every time you make a contribution, you get an additional tax deduction. So in the first year, you contribute maybe all of them. In the second year, you've got 2/3 of them left. You can make that contribution in the second year, where you got your tax deduction the first year. The second year, you get another tax deduction because you're making a second contribution. So think of it as you've got a dollar amount that you want to contribute, but you're phasing in the actual tax deductions that you're getting over time.
That is
I
correct.
see why you named your firm Infinite Wealth Advisors. You want infinite resources.
That's right,
information. Dear
infinite.
God, how don't you keep up with all this? Anyway, Kevin Sullivan, Robin Whitlock, Infinite Wealth Advisors, and the hosts of Wealth Over Taxes. Thanks for watching Retirement News Online.